I was halfway through fixing the hinge on the backyard gate when I heard a car door slam out front. Not the careful, respectful kind of slam. Hov. The kind of slam that says someone is arriving with a mission. My son, Mark, never visited unannounced. Not in years. Not since his life got too busy. Not since his wife started saying things like, "Your dad needs more structure," in that tone that makes structure sound like a cage built with polite words. I wiped my hands on my jeans, wondering if maybe, for once, this surprise meant he missed me. Then I saw the brochures, clutched against his chest, like admission tickets to a life he couldn't wait to shove me into. All glossy, all bright, all printed with smiling elderly people who looked like they'd been told to smile or lose their pudding privileges. "Dad," he said, stepping past me and into the house without waiting to be invited. "We need to talk." That sentence, those 4 words, the same ones he used when he told me he was moving out, when he told me he wouldn't be joining the family business, when he told me he didn't think I should drive anymore. Always delivered like a verdict, never a conversation. He spread the brochures across my kitchen table as if he were laying out evidence. Golden Acres Assisted Living, Willow Haven Retirement Community, Silver Pines Long-Term Care. Places you go when life stops being yours. Places you enter once, but almost never leave on your own terms. "Dad," he said again, with that rehearsed softness people use when trying to make their cruelty sound compassionate. "You've had close calls. You're not getting any younger. I just want you safe." Safe. I was safer during my years on construction scaffolding in the 80s than I was in the tone he was using now. "I didn't ask for this," I told him. He exhaled, annoyed. "You never ask for help. That's the problem. You cling to this old house like it's a lifeline. You're 72, Dad. You shouldn't be living alone." The words hit me harder than I expected. 72, as if he was saying obsolete. I steadied my breathing. "Mark, I manage fine. Do you?" He shot back. "The neighbor told me you slipped on your porch steps last week. What if that had been worse?" I felt heat rise in my chest. The neighbor needs to learn to mind her damn business. But he wasn't listening anymore. He was already reaching into his bag. He pulled out a folder, thick, heavy, the kind of folder lawyers use when they're about to change the direction of someone's life. "I already talked to a nurse at Willow Haven," he said, placing the folder in front of me. "She's in the car. She offered to stop by and make this easier. She said the paperwork is simple." My stomach tightened. Paperwork. Without my consent. Without even a discussion. Before I could protest, he raised his voice toward the door. "You can come in now." A woman stepped inside, mid-40s, polite smile, uniform pressed so sharp it could cut glass. She carried a clipboard and pen. Her footsteps were too confident, too efficient, like she'd done this many times before. "Mr. Dalton," she said warmly, "I just need a few signatures. Standard admission forms. Nothing complicated." Admission. The word echoed in my head, like a gavel strike. Mark nudged the pen toward me. "Dad, this is for the best. Just sign. I'll handle the rest." Handle. As if my life were a set of bills to be sorted and filed. My thumb brushed the edge of the papers. Something in the thickness felt wrong. Legal wrong. Final wrong. The nurse stepped closer. "If you'd like, I can walk you through it privately," she offered. "Why?" My son snapped. "He doesn't need." But she gently put a hand on my forearm and whispered, so soft I almost thought I imagined it. "This isn't an admission form. It's a property transfer." My heart slammed against my ribs. "What?" I whispered back. She kept her voice low. "Your son, he's not placing you. He's signing over your home. I've seen this before. Please, read the last page." My hands shook. I looked at Mark, my own flesh and blood, standing there impatiently, arms crossed, foot tapping, like I was slowing down his afternoon plans. The son I raised, the boy I taught to ride a bike, whose nightmares I calmed, whose scraped knees I bandaged, whose college I helped pay for. A son who now wanted my home, while I was still living in it. I flipped to the last page, and everything in me broke. I stared at the last page, and for a moment, my vision didn't make sense of what I was seeing. The words blurred, my hands trembled, and the kitchen around me seemed to warp, as if the walls themselves leaned closer to read the truth with me. Transfer of full property rights. Signing party relinquishes all ownership. Sole beneficiary. Mark Dalton. I blinked hard. The letters stayed the same. My son hadn't brought me admission papers. He'd brought me a silent eviction notice, dressed up as concern. I swallowed, but my throat felt lined with sand. The nurse cleared her throat gently, trying to mask how wrong this all was. Mark misread her tone entirely. "See?" he said, rolling his eyes. "He's confused. This is what I've been trying to tell you. He needs a safer environment. Dad, just sign the damn thing. You're making this harder than it needs to be." Harder, as if I were the inconvenience, as if my hesitation to give away my own home made me a burden. The betrayal hit me like a slow punch to the chest, the kind that knocks the wind out long before you fall. I forced myself to speak. "Mark, what exactly is this?" He stiffened, jaw tightening. "I told you. Paperwork. They just word things weird legally. You think I'd lie to you?" Lie? My entire house sat between those lines in black ink. "I think," I said quietly, "that you need to tell me the truth." His eyes flashed, a look I recognized from childhood, when he realized he'd been caught doing something he shouldn't. Except now he wasn't stealing cookies. He was trying to steal the roof over my head. "Dad," he snapped, "you can barely keep up with this place. It's aging with you. You need support, and I need—" He stopped himself. I leaned forward. "You need what, Mark?" He looked away, jaw clenching, and right then, I knew. This wasn't about my safety. It wasn't about worry, or love, or any of the things he was trying to disguise this under. It was about money. My house, the one I built with my own hands, board by board, weekend after weekend, year after year, had become too valuable for him to wait until nature decided he'd inherit it. He wanted it now. While my heart was still beating, I set the pen down slowly, deliberately. The sound of it clicking against the table felt louder than a gunshot. "No," I said. His head snapped toward me. "What?" I said no. The nurse subtly stepped back, sensing the storm coming. Mark's face morphed, the fake concern stripping away like wet paint sliding down a wall. "Dad, stop being dramatic. You're alone here. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if you—" "I'll figure it out," I said. "But I won't be manipulated in my own home." He let out a harsh, humorless laugh. "Manipulated? I'm trying to help you. By taking my house? By pushing me into some place I never agreed to? By springing this on me like a salesman, desperate to meet his monthly quota?" "Mark," I said quietly, "did you think I wouldn't read it?" He looked genuinely offended. "I thought you'd trust me." Trust, a word people weaponize when they want you blind. The nurse stepped forward, voice steady but soft. "Sir, legally, you don't have to sign anything you don't understand or don't feel comfortable with. And if you want to talk privately, we absolutely can." Mark spun toward her. "He doesn't need that." But the nurse didn't back down. There was steel beneath her politeness. "With respect, this is his choice, not yours." His nostrils flared. "You don't know our situation." "I know a property transfer when I see one," she replied calmly. The room went still. Then came the shift. The moment every parent knows, when a child who's cornered abandons reason and lunges for control. Mark stepped closer, into my space, not threatening physically, but emotionally, a dominance move he'd never used on me before. "I'm your son," he said, through clenched teeth. "I'm the one who knows what's good for you. You're being stubborn, ridiculous. You can't keep living like this." I held his stare. Age had taken many things from me, but not my backbone. "You want my house," I said. "Say it." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, and in that flicker of hesitation, I had my answer. Dad, you don't get it, he finally muttered. Lucy and we've been planning to move into a bigger place. The baby's coming. We need space. Your property would give us. My property, I said quietly, would give you. He didn't deny it. Not anymore. The betrayal sliced deeper than I expected. Not because he tried to take something from me, but because he did it without talking to me like a man, like a son, like someone who remembered who built his childhood bedroom with his bare hands. The silence between us thickened, heavy, charged. The nurse touched my elbow lightly. Mr. Dalton, would you like to step outside with me for a moment? I nodded. Mark scoffed. Are you serious? Dad, don't walk away. I'm trying to help you. I turned back to him. No, I said, steady and clear. You're trying to help yourself, and you almost succeeded. His expression darkened, ugly, twisted by entitlement. I never knew he carried. You're making a mistake, he hissed. You can't live here alone forever. Something's going to happen to you, and when it does, don't expect me to drop everything because you were too proud to sign one paper. That stung, not because of the words, but because of the truth behind them. I suddenly wasn't sure my son would come, if I ever truly needed him. The nurse stepped between us slightly, guiding me toward the hallway. I glanced back at Mark one more time. He stood surrounded by brochures and papers, chest heaving, face red, jaw clenched. A grown man caught committing a betrayal he didn't even think was a betrayal. He actually believed he deserved my home. And for the first time in my life, I saw him clearly, not as the little boy I raised, not as the man I hoped he'd become, but as someone who had been waiting for me to become useless, so he could take what I had spent a lifetime building. Dad, he called after me, voice sharp with warning. If you walk out that door, I'm not helping you anymore. I paused, turned, looked him dead in the eye. I think, I said quietly, you already weren't. And I followed the nurse outside. The air outside hit me like a cold splash of water. Sharp, sobering, honest. Inside my own home, I had felt trapped between the walls, between the lies, between a son who wanted my signature more than my well-being. Out here, I could finally breathe. The nurse, her name tag read Kelly, kept a respectful distance, giving me space, but staying close enough in case I needed her. A courtesy my own son hadn't offered me once. She spoke softly, the way people do when they know your world has just tilted. Dalton, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I rubbed my forehead. Did he tell you what this was? She shook her head. No. He just asked for someone who could explain the process and make the signing easier. I assumed it was a normal admission request. Of a fours, a normal admission request. But the moment I saw the second packet of documents, I knew something was off. I blew out a breath. He's my son. I know, she said gently. Why would he? But the question caught in my throat before it fully formed. Because I already knew the answer. Money, pressure, his wife, his own insecurities, his own desperate attempt to control something when life wasn't giving him what he thought he deserved. Kelly watched me with that professional empathy nurses have, the kind they train for, but some are just born with. If you hadn't said something, I murmured, I might have signed it. Her face tightened. A lot of people do. The shame landed on me like a slow, suffocating blanket, not because of what almost happened, but because part of me still, stupidly, wanted to protect Mark from the reality of what he'd tried to do. What happens now? I asked. That depends, she said. Do you want him to leave? Or do you want me to stay while you talk to him? Talk to him. The thought almost made me laugh. Every conversation lately had turned into a monologue. His. I suddenly realized how tired I was. Not physically, emotionally. The kind of tired that comes from carrying a child long after they've grown too heavy to be carried. Before I could answer, the front door slammed open behind us. Mark stormed out like a man chasing his own dignity. His face was hard, eyes sharp, jaw clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grind from the steps. "Dad," he snapped. "We're not done." Not aggressively, protectively. Mark scoffed. "Please. I'm not going to hurt him." "That's not what I'm worried about," she said. He glared. "This is a family matter." "Which is exactly why it concerns me," she replied, evenly. "Because I've seen how easily families can pressure someone into signing something they don't want." He pointed a finger at her, voice rising. "I didn't pressure him." Kelly raised an eyebrow. She didn't have to say anything. The brochures, the staged concern, the documents hidden beneath admission forms, the rush to get my signature. The picture painted itself. I straightened, stepping up beside her. "Mark," I said, my voice low and steady. "Go home." He looked at me like I'd slapped him. "Dad, you heard me. Go home." His nostrils flared. "After everything I just explained, after all the planning, after how much work I put into this." "You mean how much work you put into taking my house?" I asked. He flinched, the truth hitting him like a punch he didn't expect. "I wasn't going to take it," he said defensively. "I was going to manage it." "Manage," I repeated. "While I live where? A facility I didn't choose. A place you decided for me like I'm a problem to be filed away." "Dad, stop it," he said, shaking his head. "You're making this ugly. This is about safety." "No," I said. "Safety doesn't require a property transfer." He opened his mouth, ready to argue again, to spin another justification, to paint himself as the martyr. But nothing came out. Kelly crossed her arms. "Your father is capable. He's alert. He's not unsafe. And he certainly doesn't need to sign away his home." He exhaled sharply, pacing like a frustrated teenager instead of a grown man with a child on the way. "This isn't fair," he muttered. "You don't understand what I'm dealing with. Bills, rent, the baby coming, Lucy's parents helping us with everything. Do you know how pathetic that makes me look?" And there it was, the ugly truth peeking out from under all his excuses. His pride, his feeling of failure, his resentment, his jealousy that I had built something in my life that he hadn't yet. "So you thought taking my home would fix that?" I asked, stunned by how small his logic made him sound. He threw his hands up. "You weren't using it, Dad. Not properly. You're alone here. Every room empty. No plan for the future." "No, no you," I interrupted. He stopped mid-sentence. I continued. "You think because I live alone, my life is empty. But it's not. I built this home. I maintain it. I wake up every day with purpose. Just because you don't see it, doesn't mean it's not there." He shook his head in disbelief, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "You're old," he blurted. Kelly took a sharp breath. I felt the words slam into my chest. He didn't apologize. He didn't soften. He didn't take it back. He doubled down. "You're old, Dad. You can't do what you used to." "I'm trying to take responsibility. I'm trying to get ahead in life. Everything is harder now. You have a whole house sitting here, paid off, and you're what fixing hinges and cutting grass like some stubborn hero. It's stupid." My jaw tightened. He kept going, anger spilling out in every direction. "You don't need this house." "I do. You've lived your life already. I'm the one who has to build one. And yet here you are, hoarding the only asset that could actually help me. The only thing that could give me a break." Kelly stepped back a little, giving me space. I felt something inside me settle. Not anger, not sorrow. Something older, something clearer. "You think," I said quietly, "that because I'm old, my life is over, that I've had my time, that everything I built exists now, only to be passed down. He looked away, jaw clenching. But you're wrong, I continued. I'm not done. Not with this home. Not with my life. Not with myself. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated to his core. I laughed once, humorless, but real. For the first time, maybe I am. We stood there, father and son, staring at each other across a chasm. Neither of us built overnight, but one he'd widened with every word he'd spoken today. Mark finally threw up his hands. Fine, he snapped. Do whatever you want, but don't come crawling to me when you fall or when something happens. I'm done. And he stormed off toward his car. He didn't look back, didn't pause, didn't check if I was okay. The son I'd spent my whole life caring for didn't spare me one last glance. His tires screeched as he tore out of the driveway. Silence settled around me like dust after an explosion. Kelly let out a long, quiet breath. Mr. Dalton, I'm so sorry. I nodded slowly. Don't be. You showed me the truth. I needed to see it. She hesitated. Do you have anyone else? Any family? Anyone you trust to check on you? I swallowed, throat tight. No, I said. Not really. She nodded, her eyes soft. Then, if you'd like, I can help you come up with a plan. Something that keeps you safe but lets you stay in your home. You deserve that. A plan. A future that wasn't stolen out from under me. For the first time in hours, maybe days, maybe years, something inside me flickered alive again. Hope. Yeah, I said quietly. I'd like that. And as we walked back toward the house, the door still wide open from my son's exit, I had no idea that today was only the beginning of everything that would come next. When I stepped back into my house, something felt different. Not the walls, not the furniture. Me. Something inside me had shifted, quietly, but permanently. The way foundations crack, long before the ceiling collapses. Kelly followed me in, her steps slow, respectful. She paused just inside the doorway, scanning the brochures still scattered across my kitchen table. She didn't touch anything, but her eyes said enough. He planned this carefully. He didn't stumble into it. He orchestrated it. I steadied myself against the counter. Mr. Dalton, she said softly. This isn't the first time I've seen something like this. You're not alone. You're not the first parent someone tried to push out of their home. Her words should have comforted me. Instead, they twisted something in my chest. I never thought he'd. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat. I mean, he's my son. Kelly nodded, her expression painfully gentle. I know. I sank into a chair, elbows on my knees. The morning light, once warm, now felt harsh. Every ray landing like a spotlight on the mess. The betrayal, the truth I could no longer unsee. Kelly took a seat across from me, clasping her hands. Let's talk options, she said. You've got more than you think. I almost laughed. Do I? You do, she insisted. But first, do you want him back in your life right now? The question struck harder than I expected. Not do I love him. Not is he important to me. Not is this salvageable. But do you want him back? As he is, right now? The answer came faster than I expected. No, I admitted. Not like this. Not until he understands what he tried to do. She nodded slowly. Then the first step is creating boundaries. Boundaries. A word I'd never had to use with Mark before. When he was 8, his boundary was bedtime. When he was 17, it was car keys. When he was 25, it was not letting him back into my savings during that messy breakup he pretended not to remember. But now the boundary was my home, my life, my right to live it. Kelly continued. You'd be surprised how many older adults assume they're powerless in these situations. But you're not, legally or otherwise. I exhaled, long and shaky. What do? I asked. She gave a small knowing smile. First, we take inventory. What do you not need help with? What risks are there, if any? And what's just fear your son projected onto you? Projecting. That word hit hard. I realized something then. Mark was drowning in his own life. Bills. Pressure. A baby on the way. A wife comparing him to her sister's husband, who had a bigger home and a better job. And instead of swimming, he'd reached for me and tried to use my house as a life raft. Okay, I said finally. Let's do this inventory. She nodded like she'd been waiting for that exact moment. We walked through the house, room by room. She checked the bathroom for slip risks, the kitchen for outdated wiring, the living room for clutter. I expected her to treat me like I was fragile, but she didn't. She didn't tell me what I couldn't do. She asked me what I could. How often do you cook for yourself? Every day. Good. What about cleaning? I keep the place tidy. Laundry, yard work, driving. I manage. Then added, driving only during the day. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, impressed. Not patronizing, genuinely impressed. We moved down the hallway toward the back of the house. The boards creaked beneath our steps, the way they always had. It was the same sound that echoed through the house when Mark would sneak in after curfew. I remembered every inch of this place, every nail, every flaw, every memory embedded in the walls, and he almost took it from me with one signature. When we reached my workbench, old, scarred, stubborn, Kelly ran her fingers along the edge. You built this? She asked. Everything you see, I said, with a quiet pride I hadn't felt in years. That matters, she replied. People underestimate how much independence is tied to a home you've built with your own hands. It's not just a building, it's identity. No one had ever said it that plainly. Not even I had. I felt something warm flicker in my chest. You know, she continued, fall risks and aging issues. Those are manageable. What isn't manageable is being forced somewhere you don't want to be. I nodded. Mark thinks I'm wasting the place. She looked me dead in the eyes. Your son is projecting his failures onto your success. The words landed with a heavy, painful truth. He sees what you built, and instead of being inspired, he resents it. I swallowed hard. Kelly's voice softened. You not signing those papers today wasn't selfish. It was survival. We moved outside next to my backyard, my garden, my shed. The air smelled like soil and pine. The grass was uneven but neatly cut, because I'd cut it myself 2 days ago. Kelly scanned the space, her face softening. This, she said, is not the home of a man who needs to be pushed into a facility. Try telling that to Mark, I muttered. She gave a sympathetic sigh. I think he's overwhelmed. Doesn't excuse what he did, but it explains some of it. We walked back toward the porch. Then she stopped. Mr. Dalton, do you mind if I ask something personal? Go ahead. Has your son ever contributed to this home, to your care, anything? The corner of my mouth lifted bitterly. No, I've helped him his whole life. College, his first apartment deposit, his car when it broke down. I even helped him with rent last year when he lost hours at work. I paused. But he's never helped me. Kelly nodded once, like that answered a question she already suspected. What happened today wasn't about helping, she said. It was about entitlement. The wind rustled through the trees. My porch creaked beneath me. For a moment I felt 72, not because of age, but because the weight of parenting an adult child had never been heavier. We stepped back inside, and Kelly began writing notes on her clipboard. Here's what I suggest, she said. If you're open to it, I can schedule a home safety assessment. Not because you're incapable, because it creates a record. A legal one. Something that shows you're competent and independent. A record? I asked. She nodded. If your son tries anything like this again, having documented independence protects you. Completely. I hadn't even known that was an option. And she added, we can set up a non-intrusive support plan. Nothing that takes away your freedom. Just a few safety nets. Safety nets. Not cages. Not control. Not manipulation. My throat tightened unexpectedly. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or ashamed that a stranger was offering me more compassion than my own son had. I'd like that, I said quietly. She smiled. I'll handle everything. You just focus on you. She collected the scattered brochures from the table, stacking them neatly as if organizing the chaos made it easier to face. Keep these, she said. Not because you'll need them, but because they're evidence of intent. If things escalate, my stomach sank. You think they will? Her expression grew cautious. People rarely try something like this only once. Those words chilled me straight to the bone. She handed me a card. Call me if anything happens, day or night. I studied the card. Her name, her number, the name of the facility she worked for. I wasn't used to needing help. I wasn't used to admitting I might. But today had proven something. Trusting the wrong person could destroy everything. Trusting the right person could save it. Kelly walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. Mr. Dalton, you did the right thing today. Don't doubt that. I nodded slowly. Thank you. When she left, the house fell silent again. Except now. It wasn't the peaceful kind. It was the kind filled with echoes of the words Mark had thrown at me. Old, selfish, stupid, hoarding, living a life that he thought was already finished. I walked to the kitchen table and picked up the property transfer papers. The spot where my signature should have been stared back at me like a bullet I had dodged. My son almost took everything I had. But what he didn't know, what he would soon learn, was that today lit a fire in me I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't going anywhere. Not yet. Not ever, if I had a say. And for the first time in my life, I was ready to fight my own son if I had to. For hours after Kelly left, I just stood there, staring at the stack of papers on my kitchen table. The light had changed. Morning had slipped into afternoon. Afternoon into the gold-tinted quiet of evening. But I stayed there, unmoving, stuck in that strange space between anger and heartbreak. I didn't know which one hurt more, the betrayal itself, or how easy it had been for him. A knock broke the silence. Not a forceful one, not a confident one, a hesitant, almost guilty knock. For a heartbeat, I thought it might be Mark, ready to apologize. Maybe, or at least ready to pretend. But it wasn't. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, a woman in her late 60s, with sharper instincts than she pretended to have. She clutched a Tupperware container, like it was a peace offering. Brought you some stew, she said, her smile laced with genuine concern. Saw your son leaving in quite a mood. Wanted to check on you. I forced a smile. I'm all right. She peered at me, with narrowed eyes, the kind only people who've lived enough life to see through polite lies use. No, you're not, she said. I heard shouting. I sighed. He tried to get me to sign something. She stepped inside, without waiting for permission, the way only certain neighbors can get away with. She glanced at the papers on the table and froze. That better not be what I think it is, she murmured. It's exactly what you think it is. She set the stew down with a sharp thud and adjusted her glasses like she needed to triple check. Oh, David, she whispered. He really tried to. Yeah. Her lips pressed into a thin, furious line. That boy needs a lesson in humility, she muttered. You sound like his mother, I said softly, remembering my late wife's voice, warm, stern, disappointed, when Mark crossed certain lines. Mrs. Henderson sighed and pulled out a chair. Sit, she said. You look like you're about to fall over. I sat. She lowered herself into the chair across from me and folded her hands. You raised him better than this, she said. We all saw it. You gave him everything he ever needed. I thought I did. You did, she insisted. But children change. And the world, it's not the same place it used to be. People get desperate, prideful, scared. I stared at the floorboards. He said I'm old. She snorted. I'm older than you. And I'm not dead either. I couldn't help a small, tired smile. He said I'm wasting this house, wasting my life. She leaned forward, voice firm. This home is your life's work. Keeping it isn't selfish. It's your right. I nodded, but the words lodged somewhere deep, too tangled with hurt to move freely. Before she could say more, my phone buzzed sharply on the table between us. An unfamiliar number lit up the screen. We both stared at it. She nudged my elbow. Go on. Could be important. I answered. Mr. Dalton, a man's voice asked, formal and clipped. Yes, this is Officer Whitaker, from the county police department. My heart stuttered. My first thought was Mark. Something happened. An accident. A crash. A medical emergency. Then the officer continued. We received a report from your son, Mark Dalton, expressing concern about your mental capacity and well-being. He requested a wellness check. For a moment, I couldn't speak. A cold, sharp silence spread through my body, inch by inch. He what? I finally managed. Mrs. Henderson froze, eyebrows shooting up. The officer went on, his tone careful, rehearsed. He stated he believes you may be experiencing confusion, memory issues, or impaired judgment, and that you may not be fit to manage your own home at this time. My grip tightened around the phone until my knuckles turned white. He wasn't apologizing. He wasn't calming down. He wasn't reflecting, or thinking, or breathing. He was escalating. He was doubling down. And this time, he was using the law. The officer continued. I want to be clear. This is standard when a family member files this kind of concern. We're required to make contact. I forced oxygen back into my lungs. I'm fine, I said. My son is angry because I didn't sign over my house. There was a short silence on the other end. Then, I see. I expected disbelief. Instead, the officer sounded annoyed, not at me, at the situation. If you're comfortable, he said, I can come by to verify you're okay. That will allow us to close the file. Come over, I said. I have nothing to hide. Mrs. Henderson tapped my shoulder. Tell him I'm here, she whispered. I did. The officer replied. Good. A witness helps. I'll head over now. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of fury and heartbreak swelling in my chest. Mrs. Henderson placed a hand over mine. He's not done, she murmured. Your son's going to push this as far as he can. I know, and you're going to have to be strong. I know, and you're going to have to prepare. I know. She squeezed my hand. Good, because you're not alone. Not anymore. Minutes later, headlights cut across my front window. A patrol car. Officer Whitaker stepped out, mid-40s, polite, eyes sharp from experience. He greeted us, walked inside, asked me a few questions, checked that I had running water, working appliances, food in the fridge, medication organized. By the time he finished, his tone had softened dramatically. Mr. Dalton, he said firmly, you're more than capable of living on your own. I'll be closing this case as no concerns. Relief washed over me, but lightly, briefly, because I knew the fact that he made the call at all, that he escalated from coercion to weaponizing authorities, meant something bigger, something darker. Officer Whitaker hesitated at the door. One more thing, he said. Has your son ever implied you're incompetent before? Yes, Mrs. Henderson said before I could. Today, in this very house. The officer nodded once, grimly. Keep records of everything, he said. Any messages, any calls, any attempts to contact you regarding your home. If this continues, you may need a lawyer to protect your rights. I nodded. Thank you. When he left, the house felt heavier, not with fear, but with something sharper. Resolve. Mrs. Henderson touched my arm gently. This isn't over, she said, but you're stronger than he knows. I looked around my home. The walls I built, the floorboards I nailed, the memories layered like sediment in every corner. I felt something rise in me that wasn't anger, wasn't fear, wasn't sorrow. It was determination. He wants a fight, I murmured. She nodded once. Then give him one. And as night finally settled around the house, I felt the truth settle too. My son didn't just try to take my home. He tried to take my freedom, my autonomy, my dignity. And he wasn't done, but neither was I. I barely slept that night. The house was quiet, too quiet. Every creak, every settling board, every whisper of wind against the windows felt amplified. Not because I was afraid of the dark, but because for the first time in my life, I was afraid of my own son. It wasn't the kind of fear that comes from physical danger. It was the deeper kind. The fear that someone you love has crossed a line they can't come back from. At around 3:20 a.m., I gave up on sleep entirely and shuffled to the living room. I turned on the lamp, the warm, familiar glow that usually settled my nerves. Not tonight. Tonight my mind raced with every possible angle Mark might be planning next. He'd already tried to trick me into signing over my house, called the police on me, claimed I was mentally declining. He had no shame, no hesitation, no breaks, and people like that don't just stop. By sunrise, I had made a pot of coffee so strong, even the steam seemed caffeinated. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me, the one Mark used to sit in every Sunday for pancakes when he was a kid. I used to watch him eat with such joy. I used to think I'd done something right. Now that chair looked like an accusation, a memory tainted. At exactly 8:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not a call, a message from Lucy, my daughter-in-law. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. Hi, David. I heard about yesterday. I think we need to talk. Please. I wasn't sure whether to feel hopeful or cautious. Lucy was always polite. Distant, but polite. She'd never raised her voice at me, never disrespected me the way Mark had today. But she also didn't challenge him. Not once. I typed back, "What exactly do you want to talk about?" Her reply came seconds later. "I'm coming over. 20 minutes. I rubbed my temples. Of course she was. When she knocked, the knock wasn't timid like Mrs. Henderson's or measured like Officer Whitaker's. It was firm, decisive, almost angry. I opened the door. Lucy stood there, 8 months pregnant, arms crossed, jaw set like she'd rehearsed everything she was about to say. "David," she said, stepping past me, "we need to clear the air." Clear the air. A phrase people use when they want you to surrender and them to feel justified. She turned to face me. "Mark came home last night devastated," she said. "He said you screamed at him. He said you refused help. He said you're paranoid and acting irrational." A bitter laugh escaped my throat before I could stop it. "Devastated," I repeated. "Is that what he told you?" She bristled. "He's trying his best. You have no idea the pressure he's under." "I know exactly the pressure he's under," I snapped. "Pressure I supported him through. Pressure I helped relieve. Pressure I paid for more times than I can count." She shifted uncomfortably. I continued, "What I won't do is let him take my house to solve his financial mess." Her eyebrows shot up. "That's not what." "It is exactly what he tried to do." I grabbed the property transfer paperwork from the table and held it out. "Read it. Read the last page." She hesitated. "Go on," I said. "See what your husband asked me to sign." Slowly, she scanned it. Her face changed, layer by layer. Confusion, realization, embarrassment. Then something else, something sharp, cold, calculating. When she finished, she placed the papers down. "I didn't know about this," she said quietly. I watched her carefully. "Didn't know," I echoed. "Or didn't think I'd find out." She looked up sharply. "You think I planned this?" I didn't answer. She took a slow breath, steadying herself like she was using a technique from some prenatal yoga class. David, I'm not the enemy here, but things are tight. Mark feels like a failure because his parents, my parents, help us, but you don't. My jaw clenched. What? She shifted her weight. You have a paid-off home, no mortgage, no dependents. Meanwhile, we're drowning in rent, car payments, medical bills, baby expenses. Lucy, I cut in. That's not my fault. She stared at me, her expression softening, but only on the surface. It's not about fault, she said. It's about family supporting each other. You can't just sit in this big empty house while we're struggling. There it was, the real motive, laid bare. You think my home is wasted on me, I said. Her silence was confirmation. You think, I went on, that because I'm older, my life has less value than yours. Still nothing. You want my house, I said, and you want it now. Her lips tightened. Finally she exhaled. We need it more than you do. The words hit like a slap. You know, she continued. I told Mark not to push you. I told him you'd agree, if we explained it the right way. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. Not just anger, grief. This isn't support, I said. You two want to take. She didn't deny it. Instead she said softly, we're family. That's how family works. I stared at her. Family doesn't manipulate, I said. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't file wellness checks to force someone into a facility. She shifted. A flicker of guilt passed through her eyes. Mark thought, she began. Don't, I said quietly. Don't defend him. I took a step closer. He weaponized the police against me. He tried to paint me as incompetent. His father. Lucy looked down, one hand resting protectively on her pregnant belly. He was scared, she murmured. He thought you'd get hurt. He thought I was an obstacle. I corrected. Not a father, not a person, an asset. She didn't respond. After a long moment, she looked up. David, he's coming back tonight. He wants to talk. He wants to make this right. Her voice softened. Please don't make it harder. Harder. The same word Mark used. The same word manipulators always use. I'll talk to him, I said finally. But I'm not giving him this house. She sighed. A long, tired sigh. Then I understand what's going to happen next. I frowned. What does that mean? She walked to the door. Just before stepping out, she turned back and said, Mark isn't just angry. He's desperate. And when desperate people feel cornered, they do drastic things. A chill crawled up my spine. What things? I asked. Her expression went blank, neutral, almost rehearsed. You'll see. And she left. For the first time since this all began, I felt real fear. Not of aging, not of living alone, but of what my own son would do to take what wasn't his. When night fell, I turned on the porch light and sat in my armchair, waiting for the knock, waiting for the confrontation, waiting for the moment that would finally tell me what kind of man my son had become. But instead, something worse happened. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number. I picked up. A woman's voice spoke calmly. Mr. Dalton, this is Child Protective Services. We received a call regarding concerns about the safety of your unborn grandchild. The report states you may be unstable, unpredictable, and potentially harmful. My entire body went cold. He didn't just come after me. He came after my relationship with his child, a child who wasn't even born yet. I gripped the phone so tightly my hand went numb. My son filed that, I said. I can't discuss who filed it, the agent replied. But we are required to follow through. I felt the air leave my lungs. He wasn't just escalating. He was trying to erase me, as a father, as a grandfather, as a person. And suddenly, I knew the next move wasn't his, it was mine. The moment I hung up the phone with Child Protective Services, a cold, buzzing numbness spread through my body, a sensation I'd never felt before. Not even when the doctor told me my wife's cancer had spread. Not even when I buried her. This was different, because this wasn't life hurting me. This was my own child. trying to destroy me, trying to erase me from my own family tree. I paced the living room, each step echoing through the house like a ticking clock, counting down, ticking towards something inevitable. My breath came slow and controlled, but my heart beat with an unfamiliar fury. I knew two things in that moment. One, I wasn't going down quietly. Two, this had to end tonight. I sat down at the kitchen table, the very table where my son once ate cereal and laughed about cartoons, where he did homework, where he practiced spelling words, where I explained life to him piece by piece. Now it was the war room. I laid out every piece of evidence: the unsigned property transfer, the brochure stack, Kelly's card with her notes, Officer Whitaker's report number, a list of times Mark had contacted me recently, without my request, his texts, his sudden escalation. And I realized something chilling. Mark hadn't snapped. He had planned. And when step one failed, he moved to step two. Now he was on step three. If I didn't stop him, step four could be permanent. At 8:37 p.m., headlights swept across my front windows. I didn't flinch, didn't hide, didn't prepare. I sat at the table in full view, waiting. The front door opened without a knock. He walked in like he owned the place. Mark, my son, his posture stiff, his jaw clenched, his expression a storm of entitlement and indignation. Lucy followed him inside, slower, quieter, her hands folded over her pregnant belly. She didn't look at me, not once. Mark closed the door behind them and turned to face me. "Sit," I said. He blinked, thrown off. He expected shouting. He expected tears. He expected weakness. Instead, I spoke with the calmness of a man who had already made a decision. He sat. Lucy stayed standing, though her weight shifted uneasily. I slid the property documents across the table. "What's this?" I asked. He didn't bother pretending. "You know what it is. And what did you call it yesterday?" He looked away. "Paperwork." "And what did Kelly call it?" He tensed. "Irrelevant." I leaned forward. "It's a property transfer, Mark. You tried to trick me into signing over my home." His jaw twitched, but he didn't deny it. I continued. "When that failed, you called the police on me, tried to make me look confused, incompetent. Dad, when that failed," I said louder, "you filed a claim with Child Protective Services about me, a man who hasn't even met his unborn grandchild yet." Lucy swallowed hard. Mark's face reddened. "Dad, you're twisting." I slammed my palm on the table. The sound cracked through the house like thunder. Both of them jerked. "No," I said sharply. You twist everything. You twist truth, responsibility, and now you're twisting the law to try to force me into a facility so you can take my home while I'm still alive." His breathing sped up, that frantic, cornered kind of breathing. "Dad, we're struggling," he burst out. "We're drowning. I'm doing everything I can, and you think that gives you the right to destroy me." His eyes flashed. "You could fix everything for us," he snapped. "One signature, one decision, and we'd finally get a break in life." "A break you didn't earn," I said. "I don't care," he shouted. "I need it. We need it. You're alone in this house. You don't do anything with it. You're knowdered, old." I finished. "Say it." He shut his eyes. That was all the confirmation I needed. I leaned back, exhaled slowly. "Let me tell you something, Mark," I said, my voice suddenly low. "Your mother and I built this home with our bare hands. We painted every wall, laid every tile, planted the trees in the yard. This isn't just a house. This is our legacy." He scoffed. "Legacy doesn't pay bills." "No," I said, "but character does. Work ethic does. Responsibility does." He flinched, because he knew. Lucy stepped forward. "David, we're not bad people. You let him do this," I said. without looking at her, and you stood beside him every step of the way. I didn't know, she whispered. You knew enough, I said. There was silence, thick, punishing. I lifted a small folder from the table and set it down between us. What's that? Mark asked. A record, I said. Everything that happened in the last 48 hours. The documents, the police report, witness testimony, copies of the wellness check file, the calls CPS made, everything. His face drained of color. Why would you? Because, I said, cutting him off. If you ever try something like this again, I will take this folder to a lawyer, and you will be held accountable for elder abuse, coercion, and filing false reports. Lucy's breath hitched. Mark stared at the folder like it was a bomb, with a ticking timer. You wouldn't, he whispered. I would, I said. And I will. Don't test me. He looked small. For the first time in years, he looked like the boy he used to be. Lost, frightened, uncertain. But that boy had disappeared the moment he tried to take my home. The man sitting in front of me was someone else entirely. I stood up slowly. I'm drawing a boundary, I said. Not because I want to, but because you gave me no choice. He blinked rapidly, his eyes shining with humiliation, or anger, or both. You're cutting me out, he whispered. I paused. I'm protecting myself. No, he said, shaking his head. You're abandoning me. I stared at him. Really stared at him. The son I raised, the son I loved, the son I worked 60-hour weeks for so he could have a better life. I'm not abandoning you, I said, quietly. You abandoned me the moment you chose greed over family. Silence. Absolute silence. Lucy finally stepped forward. We should go, she whispered. Mark didn't move at first. Then he stood, slowly, his movements stiff, like every step he took was through wet cement. He looked at me one more time. A storm of anger, a flicker of regret, a mountain of pride. Don't expect me to come back, he said. I nodded once. No expectations left. He swallowed hard. Then he walked out. Lucy followed, her eyes lingering on me a moment longer, something like shame, or maybe fear, or maybe guilt struggling inside her. Then she closed the door. The house grew quiet again, bone-deep quiet. I let out a breath. I didn't realize I'd been holding for half a century. I wasn't weak. I wasn't confused. I wasn't incompetent. I had faced down my own son and protected the last piece of the life my wife and I built together. The phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it. Mr. Dalton, this is CPS following up. After speaking with Officer Whitaker, the case is being marked as closed and unfounded. You are in no danger of any further investigation. I let out a long, slow breath. Relief, real relief. And beneath it, something else. Not victory, not triumph. Something quieter, more precious. Peace. I walked to the back porch, stepping into the cool night air. The stars were sharp, bright, like reminders that life still had light left in it. I sat down on the porch swing I built decades ago. The wood creaked under my weight, a familiar, comforting sound. Tonight, I didn't feel old. I didn't feel helpless. I didn't feel like a man being pushed out of his own life. I felt alive, independent, ready for whatever came next. This house, this life, was mine. And as the wind rustled through the trees and the porch swing rocked slowly beneath me, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Not every life you save grows up to value you. But that doesn't mean you stop valuing yourself.